So now as I admit everyone, it will tell them, but I will remind them. So I've got 10 people I'm letting in now.
Hi, Tina.
Hello, how are you guys?
Good. I think I'm the only, well, maybe there's others on here.
Yeah, no, there's quite a few people dialing in, so we'll get started in just a second. I want to give everybody an opportunity to get logged in real quickly.
No problem. It's Popo, by the way.
It's
Wait,
what?
It's Tammy. I guess I should use my real name.
I was like, what?
Oh.
Welcome everyone. As I'm letting everyone, we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. I'm letting a few more people in. Funny, as soon as you start a meeting, your cell phone starts ringing, right? All right. It is just a little bit after 5 o'clock, and so I do want to be cognizant of everybody's time. So I want to get us started. For those of you who don't know me, I want to welcome you. I'm with the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce. I'm the Membership and Marketing Coordinator here. My name is Tina Fowler. And I am here with a few members of our police department, as well as some of the consultants that they've been working with. The Vallejo Chamber is a membership organization. And so we started this with the intention of doing this for our members, but in discussing it, we realized that this is the crime issue in Vallejo is an issue that affects all of our businesses and residents. And so we wanted to open that up. So we opened it up to everyone. So I want to welcome you all. These are the types of things that the Vallejo Chamber tries to do for our businesses and for our members to keep them connected on things that they can do with other resources in the community. So I wanted to just kind of welcome everyone. I want to talk a little bit today about what Vallejo Police Department is doing to help our businesses, and more importantly, what our businesses can be doing to help ourselves and also work with the partners that we have in the community. So I want to remind everyone that this meeting is very focused. It's focused on discussing crime and deterring crime in Vallejo. Anything outside of that scope, we will ask you to leave the meeting. We're asking everyone to please be respectful. Keep your cameras on. Your cameras can be on or off, but please keep your microphone on mute unless you are asked to speak. If you have questions, we will be doing a Q&A section at the end of this. So please put those questions in chat. Some of you put questions in the question box when you registered. We will be starting with those questions, and then we'll answer as many questions as we can get answered at the end. And I want to let everyone know that we are recording this meeting. So those are the key kind of housekeeping pieces of this. I'm going to introduce Captain Willams, who is here with Chief Willams, who is here with the police department, as well as Captain Potts and Brittany Jackson, who is the police officer's information officer. Brittany, I'm not sure who else is here from the police department, so I can only see a few people on my screen. So I'm going to pass it over to you and see. I don't want to miss anybody.
Yes, thank you so much, Tina, for the introduction. And so we may also have Deputy Chief Kim joining again. Chief Willams for the Vallejo Police Department will just be giving you all just a brief message. Tina, I believe you had a question for Chief to kick us off. And then after that, we'll have Captain Potts, who oversees our Operations Bureau, providing us with a public safety overview. And then we'll get right into the presentation by FLOCK Safety. And you can feel free to introduce the panelists we have from FLOCK Safety as well at this time if you want.
Jessica, would you like to do that?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Wonder. I am the Community Safety Manager here for the Bay Area for FLOCK Safety. And I'm just over in San Francisco. So thank you guys for allowing me to join. Graham, John, if you wanted to introduce yourselves as well, feel free to do so.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Anderson. I'm FLOCK's Law Enforcement Territory Manager, working directly with the police agency.
My name's Graham, and I'm the market manager for Northern California, and I'm right out of Walnut Creek, so I'm just right down the road from y'all.
All right, great. So I kind of wanted to, I had reached out to Captain Potts after the recent shooting in downtown. I had 3 of our member businesses that were here in downtown just going, what do we do? How do we survive running a business when people are afraid because that they're going to get shot? And so, you know, I think for those of us that live here, I laugh at that because I live my life every day without ever thinking about being shot. But at the same time, there's a perception. And so what do we do about that? And what can we as business owners do? So I want to start by asking Chief Willams, with the recent uptick in crime that we're all seeing, the shootings and everything else, can you talk a little bit about the background that brings you to think that technology is important to the community and specifically to deterring crime?
Thank you, Tina. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone who's joined this meeting today. I'll tell you this, Tina, technology is vital to the reforms, the improving community safety, effective policing, sharing information with our community and building trust. And it's vital because we need to be able to work smarter with the resources that we have. And we also need to be able to work in collaboration with our community. So technology allows us to do that. It allows us to be more efficient, more effective. It allows us to identify the prolific offenders who commit many of these crimes. It allows us to put technology in the hotspots where these crimes are occurring. And we know by evidence-based practices, this helps us to reduce the crime. At the end of the day, we need to identify the people that commit violent crime, and especially shootings, which are it's an epidemic in the country, but also in our city. But we also need to identify other crimes that are being committed, like car burglaries or residential burglaries, homicides, and the cameras that we have deployed with FLOCK Safety have helped us to identify violent predators in our community. It's helped us to identify homicide suspects, robbery suspects, burglary suspects. But what we also want to do is to be able to crowdsource the information that we get with our community. And so that's why technology is going to help us to work hand in hand with our businesses, with our residents, to identify suspects, but also to catch predators. And so it helps us in many ways. Unfortunately, we did have an uptick in shootings in the month of May. We had 31 shootings in 31 days. And so that's why we created Operation Peace, is to reduce violent crime in our city, all crime, but violent crime. And lastly, I'll say this, that some of the technology we want to deploy, the ALPRs and some of the CCTV cameras, will help us in terms of human trafficking and prostitution in those downtown areas to identify and capture plates of Johns that are engaging in that activity, or people that are engaging in human trafficking, like the pimps and the people that commit those types of crimes. So it's going to help us in many ways, Tina. And I'm honored and privileged to be here with you. And I'm just here to support Captain Potts and our community members.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So Captain Potts, do you want to jump into the presentation?
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, thanks for having me. Honored to be here. Thanks for coming out on your guys' busy afternoon. It's a hot one. So a little bit about me. I've been with Vallejo for about 21 years. I oversee the Operations Bureau. Grew up here in Vallejo, most proud of that. Went to all the schools. Have deep roots here. But so the chief kind of alluded to this fact, but we went from kind of a we're in a pandemic, right? We're getting out of the pandemic, but now we're in a current public health crisis in this country. So, and it's gun violence. And a lot of it has to do with the gun sales during the civil unrest and the pandemic and, all the growth of these ghost guns and everything else. So, we had 554 shooting victims last year and we had 28 murders for 2020. And as the chief said, we had quite a few shootings in May. And we just recently had a shooting last week at 201 Main, and that gives us 4 murders for the year. And so we would have benefited greatly from having a FLOCK camera in the area. Our overall crime rate is down 23%. And this is important when you're looking at other cities and they're looking at double-digit increases throughout the area. And we're doing this while we're trying to keep up with attrition and all that good stuff. Our violent crime is down 23%. And our murder rate is down over 50%, which is 4 for the year compared to 9 last year. And so the chief talks about evidence-based, and I also want to talk about harm-focused and avoiding these disparate outcomes. And that's with objectionable evidence. And that's things like FLOCK safety cameras and license plate reader hits and intelligence-led, being precise in our approaches, problem-oriented, looking at the underlying causes of the crime, and then evidence-based, looking at your best available strategies and decisions to affect those strategies. So what can we do about it? The map that you're looking at right now, that's our GIS Esri crime mapping. And we're proud of that. That's being data driven. And that's where we're looking at all of our 8 beats. And so our cameras right now, our FLOCK safety cameras, we're really super proud of it. We've had these up since September. There's 10 of them in North Vallejo that we've had. And then we have 10 in the Mare Island area as well. And so, our Operation Peace folks, we've had 50 guns recovered year to date. And so Peace stands for Predictive Enforcement and Community Engagement. And we're also proud of the fact that last year they had 151 arrests in that 6-month period and 72 firearms recovered. And that was with our Peace Task Force. And so these FLOCK cameras, and we'll talk about that, thank you. This is where we're at with 28 murders for our average and 17 and a half murders, which is what we do year to date, annually, sorry. Next slide. And so our Peace team is, it stands for Predictive Enforcement and Community Engagement. If you see there on the left, those are the firearms that we've recovered, some of them. And as you can see, in one of those pictures, that's a ghost gun. And what a ghost gun is that folks actually build these guns with polymer P80 bottoms, and they actually build them with no serial number attached. So it's definitely a problem, and it's a problem throughout the country, and it's not unique to us. And so I mentioned that we had 151 arrests and 72 firearms. What Peace stands for is community engagement as well. We've actually done some things with our Operation Peace Community Task Force, which we're proud of as well. So next slide, please. And so these are some of the results of FLOCK. We've had 10 FLOCK cameras throughout our city, and they're actually in our North Vallejo area. And these are some of the results of our Peace team. We've had 151 arrests, and again, our murders are down quite a bit, and our robberies are down as well. So next slide, please. And so this is an affordable solution, right? So when we look at that, we have, we've had these cameras are pretty inexpensive. They're $2,500 per camera per year. And the results are kind of undeniable. We estimate well over half of all our stolen vehicles that are recovered are FLOCK or license plate reader assisted. And we do this all while protecting our privacy for the community, right? So these cameras only store for 30 days, and our FLOCK folks will talk about that as well. And what we're most proud of, we're going to launch this today, we're going to share this with you guys, is our transparency portal. If you can link on that, Jessica. And so we're the second police department in the country that has these this transparency portal. And as you can see here, this is for our community to see, and this is a kind of a living, breathing document where the community can log on to our website, VallejoPD.net, and they can go to our transparency flock safety portal page here. And this explains what the system is, what it isn't, their prohibited uses. And it also, if you scroll all the way down there, it actually gives you a link to our license plate reader policy, which we're proud of as well. And as you can see there on the right, the vehicle detected in the last 30 days is kind of a living, breathing document. So next slide.
I'd actually like to just real quick chime in there, Captain, if I may.
Yes,
If we
please.
could just back up. This is actually a really important piece of the FLOCK philosophy. We fundamentally believe that communities are better and safer when they work together, and they are all part of that process, and part of that is obviously accountability. So we are super proud that, you know, we helped design this, but also that Vallejo is the second police department in the country to adopt this, and we think it's great that it's happening there. So I just wanted to throw that in.
And I think that, and I just want to talk about the hot list. I know we're going to talk about that, but what separates Flock safety cameras from other entities, I think, is that it does sell to businesses and HOAs. So we presently have 3 neighborhoods that have Flock safety cameras. That's in our Federal Terrace neighborhood. That's in the Waterstone area and the Glen Cove area as well. And we're also getting Kaiser on board as well. And so why is this important for neighborhood cameras? So, you know, when an officer gets a hot list alert, they're scanned typically, and they're sent to their mobile data computer and scanned through our stolen vehicle system. So those are stolen vehicles, lost or stolen plates, be on the lookouts, that kind of thing. So it's a good way for these cameras, for the police to, you know, when you have these cameras in your neighborhood, in your businesses, it's a good way for you to get more patrols, because our officers are going to get these alerts, and then they're going to circulate in the area looking for these wanted vehicles. So they then act on those alerts by going after the vehicle, right? So they're actually really good, and they actually proactively prevent crime. So we're pretty proud of that.
Perfect.
And I'll give it to you, Jess.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Captain Potts. And thank you, Chief, for doing a great introduction. Again, hey, just Jessica over here from Flock. I'm just going to jump into presentation, and then again, we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So as questions come up during this, feel free to put them in the chat, and then we'll discuss them at the end. But at Flock Safety, what we like to say is we're not a technology company. We're not a camera company. We're really a crime-solving company. And our goal is simple: to eliminate crime. And so we believe that it is really possible to build technology that's beneficial for police departments across the country while protecting the privacy and civil liberties of private citizens. And so the way that we're able to do that is with our ethics-driven innovation and with protecting privacy. You know, first, we do store the data on AWS protected servers. The footage is owned 100% by the customer. We have a 30-day data retention policy, meaning after 30 days, the information is just automatically deleted from the system, as well as it's never sold or shared. As well as we do have cameras that really do detect unbiased, objective information. And the way that we're able to do that is we focus heavily on camera placements. So we place these cameras to get images of a rear of a vehicle. And so the software is optimized to capture that rear and to not capture the occupants inside the vehicle, as well as this is not used for facial recognition or immigration enforcement or traffic enforcement. And we do not use any third-party databases such as Carfax or the DMV to cross-reference our information. And so why at Flock we settled on license plates is because about 70% of all crime occurs using a vehicle. And if you don't get that plate, It's really hard to kick off an investigation. And that leads to about 82% of all crime across the country going unsolved. And so really there's only an 18% chance that a criminal will ever be caught committing a crime. And, oftentimes police just don't even have the lead that they need to work off of. And so it's really a hard problem to solve. And so at FLOCK, what we did is we spoke with hundreds of different police chiefs, and we kept on hearing the same thing, is police desperately want to solve and prevent crime throughout their community. It's just really hard because they rarely have the evidence that they need. And so it's not an effort problem on the police department. It's just simply a lack of evidence problem. And so what makes FLOCK Safety unique is we equip neighborhoods and businesses with the ability to proactively get ahead of this and really prevent it from happening in the future. And so let's talk about property crime. So as it relates to businesses and HOAs and neighborhoods, these are the most common crimes that you guys will see. So this is arson, burglary, mail theft, home theft, motor vehicle theft, vandalism, and more. And so the problem with traditional methods to deter crime is, typically communities, individual homeowners or business owners are investing in their own security options like this to really help deter crime. And these require electricity, internet connection, and the cloud storage or there's surveillance storage to be able to store the footage. And these are really good, clear as day, at showing that a crime did occur or an event did happen. However, it's not really the actionable evidence that police really need. And so I'll walk us through this example here, and I'm definitely going to have Captain Potts chime in. But Captain Potts, can you walk us through this video and what are the problems that you see here? Why isn't this really anything the police can really use?
So we're gonna play it first, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is your typical criminal stealing a package.
Yeah.
And if you play it all the way through, she gets into a car.
It does, yeah, it's a pretty quick video. So she walks up, she steals a package, she does slip and fall. But what we're able to capture is that vehicle in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, so what's important about that is because it's going to give you actionable evidence, right? So, what happens a lot of times with your typical camera or your typical license plate reader, it just captures a license plate. So for example, in this situation, as you can see there on the upper right, that looks like a dark blue or some sort of sedan of some sort, maybe an Acura older model, or an Infinity. So what our officers would do or detectives would do is actually query the system. And again, they use vehicle identification technology. They query the system on the unique descriptors of that vehicle. So for example, you're a victim of a robbery at Walmart. You have your purse snatched, and all you know is it was a blue Acura. Well, we can query the system for blue Acuras for the date, time, and the location of that camera, and come up with again actionable evidence and leads that'll actually solve this crime. And we've done that several times. We actually had a shooting up in North Vallejo where our officers had unique vehicle description on a SUV, and that's ongoing right now. We're able to solve a shooting based on that evidence. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the actionable evidence that's actually needed. We're looking for a license plate. You're asking what was stolen, what was damaged. Did you see the vehicle that did it? And what evidence do you really have to kick off that investigation? And if you necessarily don't have a license plate information, it can become a little bit difficult, right?
Yes, it can be. So, and again, we've solved crimes, we've solved robberies. In fact, we had a robbery in Home Depot parking lot a few months ago. All we had was the vehicle information, and our officers and detectives were able to get a lead and make an arrest, and actually hit on one of our Mare Island cameras. So it's not only robberies, it's catalytic converter thefts, it's prostitution, it's sideshows. And so I'm sure we'll get a few questions about that in the question and answer about how these cameras impact sideshows, how they impact, for example, prostitution, violent crime. And again, if all we have is a vehicle, and we have the unique descriptors of that vehicle, for example, a roof rack or rear end damage, we can query that in the system, and we'll demo that at the end here. And you guys will see the power of this system. It's pretty good stuff. And again, it's objectionable evidence. It's real evidence. It's stuff that we would see, that any witness would see in the street and provide to the police. And then we act on that evidence. So we ask our police to have these tools, and why not give it to them to enhance our public safety and our crime fighting abilities.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. And so let's talk about what FLOCK is, right? So what is this FLOCK Safety's ALPR technology? First, it's a camera that takes images of the rear of a vehicle in public space, and it detects when something's not right. And the software is going to decode those things the same way an investigator or a detective would. And the software is looking at those images the same way a regular detective would and reviewing that evidence. And it's really essentially a lead for the police to go off of. And so from there, what the police department can do is they can manually evaluate, investigate, and make informed decisions on what their next steps will be. And how does this help prevent and eliminate crime? First is we offer those hot list alerts that Captain Potts, high level spoke about earlier, as well as this is a solution that is really incredibly powerful for tools for investigative leads. And as the agencies become more successful with clearing cases, crime rates really actively do decrease, as well as really the cameras do act as a deterrent. If a criminal knows that there are FLOCK Safety ALPR cameras in that area, what they're going to do is just turn around and maybe go to a different neighborhood. But the goal here is for them to just go to a different city. And so Captain Potts, can you talk a little bit more about, if there's a business or a neighborhood that has FLOCK Safety cameras to protect their neighborhood and their business, and a crime does occur, typically, how do you leverage these cameras in that situation? What would you guys do if you had FLOCK Safety cameras?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, so just to expand a bit more on that, again, if you have, for example, all you have is a white van or a red Cadillac, so we can query that and come up with a comparison and look for during the date time of that camera, where the location of the theft or crime occurred, and then we can query that camera in that area and then come up with a lead or a hit based on that. And so what happens, that's from the investigative side of things, right? But from the real-time crime strategy to this is that actually you have our officers with their mobile data computers, and they're actually maybe getting a hit on a hot list or stolen vehicle. A lot of times these folks that are in these stolen vehicles are committing other robberies, committing other crimes, and they have guns in the car. And our officers, again, have made well over 50% of all our stolen vehicles recovered have been FLOCK assisted. So yeah, they get alerted and they're in the area patrolling. They get alerted to the presence of a stolen vehicle. They circulate the area. And that's how you're going to get officers in your areas, in your hotel parking lots, in your gas station parking lots, in the 7-Eleven parking lots, by getting these officers to see these alerts, obtain these alerts, circulate the area, and then you're going to have more officers there. So,
yeah, that's a great point. And so I wanted to touch on a few examples of how we've been helping really reduce crime with the combination of communities and businesses and the police departments. And so this is an example over in Vacaville, not too far away from you guys, where the Vacaville Police Department received a hot list alert that we mentioned earlier from when a vehicle passed in front of a privately funded FLOCK Safety camera. And so the officers responded, they were able to identify the vehicle, and they did arrest the occupants inside. And essentially what was happening is these suspects had shaved ignition keys within the vehicle. So really what that told police is they were entering into this community to go ahead and steal more vehicles. And it's with those hot list alerts and that interception with the police department that wasn't able to happen, and how we were able to really reduce crime. Captain Potts, did you want to touch anything on this?
I did, yeah. So this happens several times a week for us. This exact example here, I mean, not exact with the shaved keys and stuff, but this is an example of an alert in an area, a neighborhood camera, officers in the area, they find a stolen car, and then they recover a firearm, stolen merchandise and that kind of thing from a store. So this happens quite a bit. This very same case study.
Right, it's very same scenario. And so another scary situation that happened was down in San Mateo, where 3 people kicked in a elderly woman's home, and they robbed her at gunpoint, and they stole her jewelry and her valuables as well as her vehicle. And so the perpetrators fled the scene and drove past a flock safety camera. And so the officers were able to investigate this lead and investigate by looking in the flock safety system. And ultimately they identified the suspect's vehicle. And so without the use of ALPR data, really we wouldn't have a big lead for us to go off of. And quickly this case could become very cold, but we were able to recover the vehicle as well as return those valuables back to the elderly woman.
Yeah, and this is an example of a good investigative assist there, right? So the other time was the first one with Vacaville, that was more real time, where you get an alert, a hit to a mobile data computer. This is more of investigators working it downstream and then actually looking for leads based on the investigative leads that Flock provides us.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this was after the fact that the event happened, but we were still able to solve that crime. And that's at the end of the day what we're really trying to do. And so I know we have a few business owners on the line here today. And so this is a story where over in Vacaville again, where a local jewelry store was actually robbed. And this resulted in a non-fatal stabbing of an employee, as well as over $60,000 worth of merchandise being stolen from the store. And so the Vacaville Police Department searched in the flock safety system to identify the license plate. And so they did put out a BOLO, or a be on the lookout, for this vehicle. And then upon pursuing that lead and some good old fashioned investigative work, essentially they were able to identify the vehicle and arrest the suspect. And by that time, he was about 2 states over, and it was 2 weeks later. And so using the flock safety system, we were successfully able to help reunite this business owner and serve justice, really. And then just my last example here is over in Benicia. So again, not too far away from you guys, where a fatal hit and run unfortunately happened. And all the police department had to go off of was grainy video footage from a nearby business right down the street. And they were able to identify just the make and color of this vehicle. And so the police department then spent hundreds of hours trying to identify the actual vehicle and the license plate associated. But since they didn't have any license plate data, they weren't able to identify this vehicle, and they weren't able to really make an arrest. And so this is a really good real-time example of, or a real life example of how we are able to illustrate the problems of traditional cameras that were mentioned, a few slides back. Because we had this technology, if we had this technology earlier, or the flock safety cameras, we wouldn't have to rely on that grainy surveillance footage or grainy video footage to really help solve this crime in the future. And so just to reiterate one more time, because we can say it, a lot of times here at Flock, but what is this tech versus what isn't it? So Flock Safety, what we are is we're a license plate recognition. It captures vehicle details, as well as it alerts the police department for wanted vehicles, such as those hot list alerts. And it's used to solve crime. And it does adhere to all state laws. And so what isn't this tech? And so this is not facial recognition. It's not tied to PII or just personal information. And it's not used for traffic or immigration. And the data is deleted on a 30-day rolling basis, again, to be compliant and to make sure that we're adhering to that data retention policy. And so now that we discussed really what we are at Flock, who we are, I would love to just quickly show you a little bit of what the system looks like. So this is what it looks like to be a customer with Flock Safety. This login looks very similar for both police departments as well as private residents alike and private businesses. So let's just go ahead and do a very quick search. You can access this on any smart device, whether it is your iPad, phone, laptop, whatever it is. And again, the customer owns 100% of this data. So let's say we identified on June 1st between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Say we knew that maybe, Captain Potts, this could be an example. Maybe we knew that someone had come into a community. Maybe they were trying to steal a vehicle. we're going to simply put those parameters into the system here and hit search. And so let's see how many vehicles we are able to identify in just that short time frame between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. And so what we're able to see here is over 564 different vehicles that had passed in front of the FLOCK system during this time. And so what we're able to see here is the license plate, the state associated. And if we go ahead into here and to see the more details, the system, by using machine learning, is still able to identify the build, make, color, and frequency of a vehicle, which are all really important pieces of evidence to pass over to police in the event of a crime. And so if you wanted to quickly be able to narrow down our search, say someone was able to walk down the street and saw that maybe there was a suspicious vehicle that came by, and let's say it was a van, and let's go ahead and say the color. Let's go see what color. Let's say we knew the color was black. We're just going to go into our dynamic filters and continue to filter down. And we narrowed down our search from over 560 vehicles to just one within seconds. And that's how, I always say, like, I'm sure you guys have seen like the first 48, we know how important it is to be able to get objective evidence in front of police as quickly as possible. And with the FLOCK safety system, you're able to do that.
Hey, Jess, that's a great example of objective evidence. So
right.
Just powerful and being able to get that. Again, we talk about being precise and not casting wide nets, avoiding those disparate outcomes. Just really being precise and getting that objective evidence is really, really important, and looking at those underlying causes of crime and prevention and being evidence-based. So as the chief mentioned, so that's all really important. This system does that.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, if anybody's interested in, taking a deeper dive, I'm happy to set that up. But I would love to open the floor here to questions, or, Captain Potts, if you had any other last minute wrap up questions before we do open it for Q&A.
No, I think we covered it.
Thank you. So I'm going to start, if it's all right with everybody, with some of the questions that came in during just the registration. And so the first one was whether or not who the cameras are available to purchase. Are they available for businesses that are operating from homes during COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. So with FLOCK Safety, essentially what we would do is we can just place cameras typically at an entrance of a business or an entrance of a community. And if you're still operating from home and you want to manage and maintain your business, we'll install a FLOCK Safety camera. And even if you're home, you would still be able to have the full access to really see what's happening within your business.
All right. And then the second piece of that question is, are they available for property management? And so, Captain Potts, I think don't we have one camera in a property management in an apartment complex right now?
Not yet.
Okay, so I know that there's an apartment complex, one of our chamber members that has been talking about it because of the component where you can register all of your tenants and which vehicles are coming in, and it will alert you if someone, correct me if I'm wrong, but it will alert you if someone other than those tenants enter into certain areas. Is that a true statement?
So we,
yeah, go ahead, Jess. John.
I was just going to say, so we do have what we call our saved list feature. And so that allows you to be able to identify who is a resident versus non-resident. So if you wanted to see, who is coming into your community that should versus necessarily shouldn't, it's very easy to do within the FLOCK Safety system, and you can just filter down to be able to identify.
Okay.
And, there was a question that was brought up in the past about that. Well, what happens if there's somebody that's in the HOA and they're just not a very trustworthy, savory character? There's audit functions on all this stuff. Maybe Jess or John, if you guys want to speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. John, do you want to touch on the audit?
Sure, yeah. So every search is able to be audited, and any user is going to have their own unique login credentials. So, for example, an HOA board could look back at every search that was done within the system to ensure that there's effective and appropriate use of the solution. It's also possible to have it set up to where no one has access to the solution aside from the police department if you wanted to.
Thanks.
So, Brittany, do you want to take the next question?
Sure, yes. So one of the other questions that was previously submitted was, let's see, it looks like it might be a duplicate question about the rentals, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyway, just in case it's a little bit different. Can I use the cameras on rental properties with the view on the streets to film the intersection of the avenue and business areas?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, sorry, the question is, where should we place the cameras essentially, right?
Essentially, it looks like yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we recommend is that you place the cameras at the entrances of either your business parking lot or your community. So no matter where they're going throughout the business or throughout your community, they need to come and go through the exact same way. And so we're going to be pointing the camera to obviously, again, be focusing on the rear of the vehicle as it travels into the community, and then the rear of the vehicle as it travels out of the community or business.
Okay, and before Tina moves on to the next question, I do want to reiterate that Flock Safety has information available on their site, and we'll see about making this information available, the presentation available afterward from the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce to kind of recap what has been discussed thus far. And then we also have the Flock Safety Transparency page for Vallejo up on our website at vallejopd.net. So we want to reiterate that information, that it's available on our respective sites for those who are joining late.
So the next question is from one of the downtown business owners. How does Flock work with Axon? Is AWS recognition the computer vision platform? So that's a little Greek to me. I'm not sure if I pronounce things right and whatnot, but.
Perfect. I think I'm going to let either Graham or John take the Axon question.
Yeah, I'll jump in and talk a little bit about Axon. Axon is a major manufacturer of other technology like body cameras, and they're just a major law enforcement technology provider. They're one of our partners. They're actually one of our investors. And we actually build some software that works with their technology, and we have some integrations with their technology as well. So for example, if the police department is using evidence.com as their evidence management solution, we're able to put images and evidence, if it's associated with crime, directly from the Flock portal into that other portal where they normally manage the evidence. And then I guess I'll answer the AWS question, asking about if we're referring to AWS recognition, the computer vision platform. And that's not what we were referring to back then, or back when we were in the slide deck. What we were referring to was AWS, Amazon Web Services, the cloud hosting solution. We use the AWS government cloud that meets all of the security and CJIS requirements.
Thank you. Brittany, do you want to take the next one there from Tara?
From
Tara?
Oh, yes. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let me scroll down a bit. Okay, so Tara is posing the question, if we as business owners have Flock safety cameras on site, can we share information via email or file sharing with the VPD?
Yeah, absolutely. Captain Potts, do you want to talk a little bit about that? How we have the relationship directly with businesses and HOAs? Oh, you're on mute.
Tina could probably speak to that. But yes, we've actually talked about this at some of the chamber meetings. I've talked about this at some of the private HOA meetings as well. Yeah, this is something that we can leverage with these HOAs. Again, to not to reiterate too much, but you get a hot list, a hot hit to a mobile data computer. Our officers act on that hit, and they actually patrol your neighborhoods. So you're going to get more and more patrols out there when you have those neighborhood cameras. So we definitely have some partnerships, and this is why we're here today with Chamber and trying to expand this a bit and leveraging these cameras and kind of co-producing policing with the community, as they say, right? Just kind of having everyone be a part of this, and it's great. It's great technology, and folks feel like they're empowered. And this technology is no different than the stuff that's on bridges, major intersections, airport parking lots, and the like. So it's just great technology.
And Captain Potts, if I could just add to that, I think one of the things that's nice about this is, because I know as a business owner, I don't have time to go back and look at stuff. This is just automatically accessible to you guys. So we don't have to file share.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything. Like, it's just capturing that. And it's automated. It's just all up there and it's automatically going. And I think one of the things, and I'm going to need you to correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm going off of past presentations a little bit too, is that it's not just us, it's tied in. So if something happens in Vallejo and we say this vehicle with this license plate just shot up a building in Vallejo and it hits a hot spot in Vacaville or in some of the other surrounding areas, it's not, you have access to that as well. So it's all tied together into the community, not just it's not, those of us that are born and raised here, it's a Vallejo thing. This is not just a Vallejo thing. This is significantly larger than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's a hit that goes right to our computers, and it's not just tied to your HOA. If that's the question. It's a community of cameras. It's a flock of cameras, if you will, the pun intended there. And they're just all of us tapping into this from law enforcement, actually. But I will say this, and maybe the flock folks can speak to this. The HOAs don't get the hot alerts. They don't have that. They just scan the plates. That's all that the HOA camera folks have, is the ability to scan the plates.
That is, yeah, exactly. Since it is pulling from the FBI NCIC list, that does require police clearance. And so we would never notify a private resident when someone comes into your community with a stolen vehicle. We're just going to notify the police. We don't want you charging outside with a pitchfork, because that could lead to a lot more issues. So we'll just go ahead and notify the police directly.
Exactly.
Great. I'm going to read this one, and I'm not quite sure I 100% understand it. So I may ask, Michael, you to clarify it a little bit, because it says, can a private flock camera owner make a decision to share the data if the private owner owns it, to be used by law enforcement for facial recognition purposes? My understanding is this doesn't do any kind of facial recognition, correct? This is just recognition of license plates.
It does not. If you're asking me, it does not do facial recognition. I'll let Jess and John speak to that, but that's pretty important to flock, that it does not do that.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I can chime in unless you want to.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. So say an HOA or a business owner comes on board with Flock Safety. Again, you guys, the HOA and the business, they own 100% of the data. The customer owns the data. So if you wanted to opt in to share your data with the police department to help reduce crime throughout the community, the whole goal here is to reduce and eliminate crime. That's on you to be able to opt in. If you do not want to share your data with the police department, you absolutely do not need to be. However, it would be your discretion to choose if you would like to or not. And it's not used for facial recognition.
Yes, would that be on a case-by-case basis, or is it a blanket? You either choose to or not choose to, not based on any one individual vehicle or individual
Exactly.
type.
It's a blanket. You either opt in or opt out.
No. Great.
I'll just double down a little bit on what Captain Potts said a second ago, that, facial recognition isn't part of the solution. So even if it was shared with the police department, they wouldn't be able to use the flock system for facial recognition in any way.
Okay. So I skipped a couple of questions because I wanted to kind of leave them to the end. And so now we get to the part where, every business owner is looking at their bottom line. And so what does this cost? So can you talk a little bit about what the initial output is, and then ongoing, and what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, touching back to, the core fundamentals of flock safety, what the camera is it's 100% infrastructure free. And so what that means is we install our own flock safety pole, we install our solar panel, and we install a cellular LTE network chip. So it does not require running Wi-Fi or running power to operate the camera. And so with that being said, we also include all maintenance, installation, and camera upgrades. So if your camera ever goes down, we'll come out and service it free of charge. And so with that being said, the camera is $2,500 annually with a one-time $250 installation. And so that $2,500 annually covers all of that I just mentioned. And you'd be able to have consistent maintenance and your cameras would never be obsolete.
And is that something that could be set up on a billing plan, or is it $2,500 at one time at the beginning of each year?
Yeah, so it is annual billing with a 2-year contract standard.
All right. Does anyone else have any? Did I miss anything? I see a lot of enthusiastic supporters in the chat over here. But does anybody else have any other questions before Gretchen, I'm not ignoring your question. It's just a little bit off topic of this presentation. So I'm going to ask it at the end. So don't think I'm ignoring you completely.
And Tina, I can interject really quickly with regard to Gretchen's question. I think that's the preventative measures. I think that's dives in more to Operation Peace and the 4-part plan there, as far as VPD is concerned, and us just taking a holistic approach to crime reduction and community engagement. And so I think you can segue and find out more information about Operation Peace as far as preventative measures that we can take.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a point there, Brittany. And the chief talks about PI, prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And that's really, really important to our strategies moving forward. And so just having that holistic approach, looking at the at-risk youth and just trying to do this the right way. Again, being harm-focused, intelligence-led, problem-oriented, and evidence-based is really, really important. And it's part of our strategy moving forward and being data-driven and using that objective evidence. I mean, we talk about the mandates in policing, but the 2 mandates, in my opinion, in policing are sustaining public safety and building trust, legitimacy, and confidence with our community. And so with these cameras, that does that with that objective evidence. It's really, really important.
And I'm going to throw this in there. This isn't a question that was asked in this meeting, but in one of our other presentations, I believe it might have been one of the ones with the lodging community. For those of you that don't know, we kind of rescheduled this meeting. We had we had this meeting set up once before, and then we had so many people from such a diverse group that we wanted to kind of do it in a little smaller, more focused group. So we've been having some of these presentations in different industries. We've met with the MMD industry, we met with the lodging industry, a couple of other ones. And some of the questions that came up in that I think were important. I mean, Jessica said it, but sometimes we need it said more directly. She said this will not be used for traffic enforcement. What that means is if you've got bad tags or you've got, you're running around, you haven't got your insurance up yet, this does not alert the police that you're driving a bad tag down Georgia Street. This is literally just, it captures your tag, it captures your license plate, not the status of your tag.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tina. If I could just add that really quickly. Again, It scans for the stolen vehicle system, which is stolen vehicles, lost or stolen plates, and our Be on the Lookout system. It also does missing persons and our AMBER alerts. So those are the really big things that it scans for. We can put in individual BOLO alerts based on some information that we receive. But yeah, it only scans for those things. Thanks for that, by the way.
That one came up in both of those presentations. So I just wanted to speak to it a little bit.
No, for sure. Thank you.
So, and then there is another question here is whether or not we think monthly payments might be an option in the future. Because I know for myself as a small business owner in town, a $2,500 investment at the beginning of the year, especially coming out of COVID, is a little rough. So if that's something that is an option, I think that might help a lot of our smaller businesses. But I also want to throw out there that these cameras don't cover one little area. They cover a large enough area that if you had 2 or 3 businesses in an area that wanted to go together to purchase the camera, that is a doable thing.
Yeah, and a great point is we do have monthly billing available, and I did message Tara offline too, or on the side, so we can follow up and discuss it a little bit more in depth. Thanks for the question, Tara. I'll definitely follow up.
Jessica, do you guys want to talk about how many police departments have this system now? I think it's important for our folks to know that.
Yeah, John, did you want to chime in?
Was the question how many private customers do we have with these?
No, not private. I just say police departments.
Police departments.
If you know the private number as well, but I'm just interested to know the police departments. How many police departments throughout the country have this system?
We've got a little over 700 police department relationships right now in the country, but I mean, here locally in Solano County, we actually work with pretty much everybody. And I mean, I think really in the local area, I think is more important than anything else. We're obviously working with your agency. We just recently started working with Benicia and Fairfield. Rio Vista has been a client for a while, as well as Vacaville. So, I mean, really a pretty strong footprint in the area. Vacaville also, we work with the police department, but also private customers as well, HOAs and neighborhoods that have the cameras. And I think in the rest of the cities, we're going to ultimately end up having some based on some of the interest that's been generated.
Thank you.
So Hank has asked, how many cameras do you think would be needed to properly, oh, this is a great lead in for my announcement. How many cameras do you think would be needed to properly surveil downtown?
Yeah, we'd have to do a little bit deeper dive, excuse me, deeper dive on the analysis into that area. But for sure, you know, as far as the downtown area, there's lots of little hot spots and areas, but it definitely needs quite a few cameras, and we're looking at that.
So, and I'm excited to announce I was able to talk to Buck Camphausen earlier today, and Buck has agreed to purchase the first 2 cameras for downtown. So he's going to be purchasing 2 that will go onto his buildings. He'll work with Captain Potts and the police department to determine which of his buildings is in the hottest spot that would have the most impact for downtown. But he has committed to purchasing 2. And then I think Rita is still on the line somewhere. If we have businesses in downtown that potentially want to be included in this, we can reach out to CCRC and see if they've got some kind of matching money, where if we have certain businesses that are able to put up half of it, could we see if CCRC would be able to do that? We can't promise that because who knows how that will work, but it's certainly an option that we can look at and see if we can and make that work. So, you know, really be thinking about this and looking at this.
So we have a couple minutes until we close, Tina. So I guess we can just reiterate the websites and follow-up information for FLOCK. Jessica, if you want to provide that. And also we can redirect all those who are here to our website as well, vallejopd.net. There's a technology and innovation tab under public information where you can see the information about our ALPR technology. We'll be consistently building that page and putting more information on it as we go along and as more information becomes available. And Jessica?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys wanted to explore your individual businesses or HOAs, and you're looking to dive a little bit deeper into the user portal and build out a custom plan for your community or business, feel free to reach out to me. I will definitely be, I can follow up with you guys as well, but it's Jessica Wonder at Flock Safety. So I'll be making sure to reach out, but feel free to reach out to me so we can get that conversation started. And thank you guys so much for allowing us to join, and Captain Potts and Chief, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. And I'm going to do my shameless Vallejo Chamber of Commerce plug. For those of you who are not members of the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce, but you are interested in learning more about it, these are the types of things that we are trying to advocate for our members, whether it's just creating, I mean, this started because 3 of my downtown chamber members called me and said, we have to do something about crime in downtown. And I reached out to Captain Potts, and all of a sudden it turned into this big meeting that we felt like we should share with more than just our members. But these are the types of things that we try to be advocates for our members about. So if you would like more information, you can reach out to me. I will give you my office number at 707-644-5551. My email is tina@vallejochamber.com. And then I'm going to do this, but my cell phone number is 707-373-4701. So feel free to reach out. Thank you guys all for joining us tonight. And I look forward to connecting you with cameras that are going to make a difference for all of Vallejo. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Tina. And thank you, Brittany. I appreciate both of your guys' time so much.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks, Tina.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Have
Tina.
a great night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Captain. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.